There is a moment every year that most people rush past. It's the space after the holidays, after the noise, after the expectations, after the performance. A moment where the year hasn't fully ended and the new one hasn't begun. That space is called the threshold. And if we don't pause there, if we don't witness what we've lived, integrate what we've learned, and consciously choose how we want to move forward, we don't actually step into the new year. We just repeat the old one with new dates. Today's episode is a ritual, a pause, a breath. Not to fix yourself, not to set resolutions, not to pressure the future, but to honor who you've become and choose consciously how you want to live the year ahead. Welcome to the Aligned Human Project podcast, where consciousness meets creation and hustle gives way to harmony. I'm Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, spiritual CEO, and founder of Practical Spiritualism. This is a space where we explore what it truly means to be human, aligned, awakened, and in flow with the field of life itself. Together, we'll bridge science and spirit, energy and embodiment, purpose and prosperity, so you can remember who you are beneath the programming and reclaim the power to create in full alignment with your soul. Because the next evolution of humanity isn't out there, it's in here. This is the Aligned Human Project. Before we begin, a gentle note. If this work resonates and you want to live these practices beyond today, you'll find support inside Align Your Life and Aligned Living, my coaching programs where we embody field and form as a way of being, real life execution for spiritual evolution. Details are in the show notes. Welcome back. Today is Boxing Day, and a day traditionally meant for clearing, releasing, and redistributing, which makes it the perfect day for this ritual. We're standing between what has been and what is not yet formed. And I want to say this clearly before we begin. You do not need to improve yourself for the new year. You do not need to set goals from pressure. You do not need to judge the year that just passed. This moment is not asking for performance. It is asking for presence. Today, I'll guide you through a ritual of reflection, a way to review the year without any judgment, how to harvest wisdom instead of regret, how to see your growth clearly even where it felt messy, and how to choose a word that becomes a living compass for the year ahead. Today's episode, this is all about authorship. It's all about devotion. This is what it means to live as aligned human on purpose. We live in a culture that rushes forward into goals, forward into productivity, forward into what's next. But wisdom doesn't live in rushing. Across ancient traditions, mystical lineages, and even modern neuroscience, reflection is sacred. Not to judge the past, but to integrate it. Because here's the truth most people miss. What you don't integrate, you repeat. What you integrate becomes wisdom. This is the law of return in lived form. Life moves in cycles. Patterns reappear not as punishment, but as invitations to respond differently. Reflection is how we move from unconscious repetition, habitual patterns, into conscious creation. And without it, we miss our own becoming. So today I want to invite you into something simple but profound as a practice. And you don't need to journal it perfectly. You don't need to remember everything. You just need honesty and compassion. If you can, grab a notebook. If not, simply listen and notice. You can return to this afterwards. I'm going to encourage you to write this out so you can become aware of things later on. Because we're going to walk through the year month by month, not to analyze, but to witness. To witness how far we've come, the shifts that we've made, and the things maybe we want to do different. So for each of these months, I'm going to give you a few questions that you can use as reflection prompts. You can also go through your phone and look through pictures to really kind of go back like, oh my gosh, right, that happened. And that's a great way to remember how much has actually happened in the past 12 months. You can also go through your date book and look at all of the things that you've done in terms of work or personal. So using your calendar will also help. So for January, your first reflection prompt is, how did I enter the year? So what energy was present? What intention was alive, even if it was unspoken? So if you've had resolutions or you have had other, systems that you've used for the new year, how did it begin last year? Or did you just keep on going and not even really pay attention to the beginning of another one? Now for February, where did momentum build? Maybe you started to get some habits. You started to create something. So where did momentum build? Maybe it was with, fueling your body or movement. And on the other side, where did resistance show up? So again, not to judge yourself, but just notice, where was the resistance? We are very seasonal creatures. So when we are paying attention to these things, it just helps us to notice like, oh yeah, I was starting to move from winter into thinking into embodiment, and then spring, and I started to plant those seeds, and then we move into summer and we start to heat up. And then we get into fall and we start to let things fall away. We close programs before we go into another cycle of rest. So you'll notice that these questions really link to the seasons and the timing of the year as we cycle through. So from March, what began to shift? And what felt misaligned? And after I go through these questions, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about my story. But this was a big one in March. In March, I started to become aware that I'd been feeling anxious since October when something was actually misaligned. And it was in March when I became aware of the misalignment and started to shift things. And then for April, where was I asked to choose? Where was I asked to choose? Or another question here would be, what did I say yes to? Or maybe it was no. Remember, there's a ton of power in our reflections. And then May, where did expansion happen? So where did we feel ourselves soften? Did we explore? Did we expand into something new? And where did contraction appear? Where did we pull back? And then for June, what needed adjustment? Did we need to tweak some things? Did we start to shift some stuff? What was no longer sustainable? So often in spring, we have all these big ideas and then we can't hold them for very long. And so maybe we needed to trim some things out. And then for July, where did joy or relief show up? Where did I override myself? So always a big question for me because I start to really drive forward in summer. Go, 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 go. Where did I override myself? Maybe it's where did I not honor my boundaries? And then August, what asked for courage? Maybe it was in a friendship or a relationship or work. What asked for courage? Maybe it was looking into our own shadows. What needed to be released? As we start heading into that autumn equinox, what needed to be released? Even if you weren't ready to do it yet. And then for September, what matured? Maybe it felt like we were starting to embody something. What clarified? And then October, where did integration begin? Did we start to bring everything together, start to compile? What strength surprised me? Always a big one for myself, noticing what were my strengths. We're so good at being critical, but what about the compliment? And for November, what softened? What softened? What was I ready to really let go of now? Maybe it was a criticism, a judgment. And what did gratitude reveal? What did gratitude reveal? If you're not sure on the gratitude, maybe it's appreciation. Maybe it was appreciation for something that was actually difficult, but it gave you a skill or a sense of self-appreciation. And then for December, what completed? What completed this month? What am I proud of? What am I proud of? And what version of me is ending? What version of me is ending? This is not a performance review. This is a self-witnessing. A witnessing without judgment is very, very healing. So as I said, I'm going to share something personal with you about this year. So my last year, my word was alignment. And for much of the year, it didn't feel glamorous. It felt a lot like dismantling, a re-listening, a letting go, a rebuilding of foundations. My mom passed away in January. And that ending really opened layers of grief and truth, of childhood imprints that I hadn't fully metabolized. And around that time, just shortly after, I started listening to The Way of Integrity by Martha Beck, twice actually. And finally, something clicked. I began to evolve my values and naming myself honestly as the contrarian soul guide, learning how to trust my voice and stand in my own personal truth without feeling like I was supposed to be softer or something different than what I really am. One by one, alignment expressed itself in form. I started my podcast. I finished my book. I ended up renaming it Align Your Life instead of Sovereignty Rising. I downloaded and named Field and Form my life's work. I birthed the Aligned Human Project, which became my mission. I started the Align Your Life group. I updated Aligned Living, my coaching program, with the full Field and Form framework. And I even renamed the podcast. I unified YouTube, my programs, my teachings, everything under one coherent umbrella. I also realigned myself in all of my relationships and how I was showing up every single day. But here's the thing. I didn't realize how deeply I had embodied alignment until I reflected. Alignment wasn't something I chased. It was something that I lived. And I used that word over and over at the beginning of the year to help me remember where I wanted to go. And without the reflection, I would have missed the truth of all that had happened. Resolutions are usually born from judgment. I should be better. I need to fix this. I failed last year. That's why we always do eating programs and workout programs. Words are born from devotion. A word doesn't punish you when you wander. It just guides you home. This aligns with the law of devotion. Devotion is not a rigid discipline. It's consistent orientation toward what matters. A word becomes a filter, a compass, a remembering. Instead of asking, did I succeed or fail? We ask ourselves, did I live in relationship with this word? Here's the thing. When I started this practice almost 10 years ago now, I began the practice. I actually can't remember what my first word was, but I was a couple years into it and I chose the word surrender. And the first year when I reflected, I thought I'd done pretty good. I was working to let go of my A-type personality, being a bit of a control freak. And when I finished the year and reflected, I realized I had more work to go. So I actually picked the word surrender for a second year. And again, when I reflected over the course of the year, realized I'd done pretty good. I'd learned to flow more, to release the need to control and the need to force things to happen. But when I reflected at the end of the year, I realized I still was gripping with one hand. So I actually did the word surrender for 3 years in a row. On the third year, I did much better. It's not that there's a perfection here, but I certainly learned how to lean in to the discomfort of allowing things to unfold. Over these years, it has been an incredible practice to learn how to let go rather than, you know, belittling myself or judging myself and being critical about how I could have done something better. It's like the word just keeps coming back over and over again. It honestly blew my mind to look back this month and go, oh my gosh, I had not really clued in how much I had embodied the word alignment in my work, in my personal life, until all of a sudden I was looking back and I was like, wow, that's a lot of alignment. So now let's bring this into form, choosing your word for the year ahead. So the practice is simple. Close your eyes for a moment. Maybe place your hand or your fingertips on your heart. Do a nice slow inhale. A little longer on the exhale. Just coming into your body. And ask, not from the mind, but from the body, what quality wants to lead my life this year? What energy wants to be embodied? What would support both my humanity and my mission? What would bring coherence between the present moment and my long-term vision? And just let the word arise gently. My word for 2026 is enthusiasm. Not hype, not burnout-fueled excitement, but enthusiasm in its truest sense. Joy in the present moment, plus the devotion to a long-term mission. That's enthusiasm. And for me, it means showing up fully. It means being completely present with my friends, my family, my team, with my work. It means creating from coherence and serving the Aligned Human Project as a global movement. It means embodying field and form and living my dharma, my purpose, without force, but in flow. This word doesn't demand perfection, but it does invite participation. So now let's cross the threshold together. Breathing in the year that was, acknowledge it and thank it, and just breathe out what is complete. Releasing it, blessing it. And then silently or out loud say, I honor what has been. I integrate what I've learned. I release what is complete. I choose consciously what comes next. Now speak your word and let it settle into your body. This is authorship. This is alignment. This is personal devotion. The new year does not require a new you. It invites a truer you. So may you move forward with presence instead of pressure, curiosity instead of judgment, with devotion instead of coherence instead of control. And remember, pause, take the breath, one conscious breath. Feel your emotions and the sensations in your body. and then align with your values and with who you want to be in each and every situation. Remember, you are the field. You create the form. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to remember yourself. Because when you align with your truth, everything else begins to align with you. If this episode sparked something inside you, hit follow or subscribe and share it with someone walking their own path of awakening. And if you're ready to go deeper, you'll find free resources, programs, and community spaces waiting for you at practicalspiritualismco.com. Remember, alignment isn't a place you reach. It's a practice you live. So keep pausing, keep feeling, keep aligning. You are the field. You shape the form.